Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Finally, it is here. Episode numero uno, number one. Yeah, the last episode was episode 0, which is basically an introduction, just a quick trailer about what this podcast is, and it's what this name says. It's practical tips, tools, resources, interviews, discussions about being a dad, and specifically being a dad with the Christian worldview. What does the scripture say? What does God say about being a father? And if you're not a father, well, you can still learn from this podcast. Hopefully, Lord willing, you will. And you can use those to talk to your friends about that, or maybe even talk to your own father about that. Well, we hope that you will grow no matter what, no matter what the case is. And so we're here finally, episode 1. I'm so sorry it has taken several months for this to happen. The plan was for us to record and to get started, but my wife caught COVID. And so we were quarantined, stuck at home, and I have 4 children currently, all under the age of 4 at the time that she caught COVID. We had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then 7-month-olds, twins. And so, yeah, it was crazy, not anybody coming over and me basically trying to take over the household and tend to 4 little ones. And again, 4, 2, and like 6 or 7 months. Can't remember the exact date. And it was wild. And so guess what happened? After she had it, I had it. And so there was another few weeks out of COVID, or because of COVID, we were out for about a month. And right after that, one of the twins caught RSV. And so we spent another time frame doing that, going to the emergency room. He got better, and then he got worse. He had some, I forgot what the word is, but complications. So yeah, he had some complications, and we were so thankful for the Lord and His graciousness to us. He has brought us through both COVID and our little one's RSV, and then the other twin after that got RSV, and then it was cold and flu season, and we've had the colds, just the allergies. There's been people harvesting cotton, and so my voice was pretty much shot for several months, and I didn't want to jump on here and be all nasally. And so that's what happened. And now that is why we are beginning this episode number 1. But hey, it works out that the beginning of the year, we now have episode number 1 for Practical Dad Podcast. And that was just the way the Lord wanted it to work. And so there we go. All right, let's jump into today's episode. It is just me, myself, and I, and you will get that occasionally on these episodes. But we will also be interviewing other dads or other potential dads, and these sorts of things will be coming up. But today I want to maybe just start out with what I believe is one of the foundational issues at hand, or foundational battles being, I don't even know if they're being fought, honestly, but there are definitely some battles in the war of killing dads, of wanting dads to fail spiritually is what's going on. And so let me tell you a little bit about what's called the Pax Romana or Romana. I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation of that, the Pax Romana. Back when the Romans were alive and fighting way back in the day, it was said that there was this thing called Pax Romana, that after they had won so many battles or war, there was this Roman peace. That's what that word is. There was a peace in the Roman world. Now, what we don't often think about is what happens because of peace within a country or a government. What happens when there's peace is people aren't out fighting and trying to just survive and live. All of a sudden there's peace, and now we can pay attention to the things within our home field. So we can work on the stores, work on streets, work on clothing, etc., etc. And that's what went on. They were able to build roads and build the cities and make the cities better and receive shipping and send out shipping. And so there's wealth. And so they're beginning to thrive because of the peace that has come from no longer fighting in the war. Well, if you continue to do that for an extended period of time, you're not just thriving, you end up really becoming obese within the surplus that you have. And here in America, I think that we could say this is true for us fathers, is that, or for really the young fathers today, is that we've grown up in a time where World War One and World War Two was gone. For some of us, Vietnam was gone, and yes, there was Iraq and Iran and those sorts of things. But for the most part, there's been a lot of peace within America as far as helping us to thrive and have a surplus. And it really just broke my heart as I began to consider and think and look upon what families are doing, and specifically, how men are leading their families, and I'm included in this, y'all. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm saying I think it's all of us. But here's what I want to get at is that surplus of just things to do has really made us busy to the point where we can't do anything. Somebody asks us to do something. Oh, we're busy. Oh, we want to do that. Oh, we're busy. Why? And it's because we're overscheduling because of the surplus in which we have. And let me give you some just practical examples here, okay? Now, maybe just make a little list here, or in your head, raise your hand if this is true. How many of you own a set of golf clubs? Check. Maybe then you also have the golf cart to go with it. Check. Now, do you have the golf shoes to go with it? Or the golf clothes to go with it? Check. Okay. Well, that's not bad to enjoy that one hobby of golf, but you have to think about the maintenance that comes with those sorts of things, or just the storage of those sorts of things. Financially, is there any storage? Do you have to store the golf cart at the golf course? Is there battery replacement? I don't know. I don't have a golf cart, so but I've been on some, obviously. But those are just one area. So you have golf, but then you also want to become a fisherman, and you want to fish on some weekends. And so you have all these fishing rods, and you have to buy lures, and then you have to buy a tackle box, and you need some other supplies that come with that. Well, maybe you need a boat, right? And so then you get a boat. Well, then again, what about the maintenance? How much does it take within time and finances to maintain the boat, to take care of the boat, to put up your fishing rods? Where are you going to store those fishing rods? Okay, so now we have golf and we're fishing. Well, maybe we like motorcycles, and then we add a motorcycle to our list, and not including on the boat and the motorcycles, insurance. And so then all of a sudden you find yourself bike riding, but how often do you actually ride your bike? Okay, and then there's just the real bike riding where you're pedaling, okay? And then you have to get all the supplies that go with that. So now you have a bike, you have a boat, you have golf, you have fishing. Well, on top of all that, you have a Netflix subscription, you have a Disney Plus subscription, you have all these television subscriptions, and you can't miss out on the football games or the basketball games, right? So you have to pay attention to those college and NFL games, make sure that we're up to date and watching all these things. And do you see where I'm getting at? Just those few items that I've mentioned. Our schedule is jam-packed full of busyness where we have to say no to other people because we've got too many things going on, or I got to fix the boat this weekend. Oh, I got to go do this or do that. It's crazy. I mean, take a Netflix series. You turn on the series, and one series isn't good enough. You got to jump into another series because that's what your wife wants to watch, or your friends are watching, or whatever. And so you're trying to keep up with that. And then here it comes. We're dads. So depending on the age of our children, there are some things going on. For me, it's a lot of changing diapers and feeding them and taking care of them because they need a lot of attention right now. Well, as they get older, you may join into Little League baseball, and if you're going to travel, you have to travel with the Little Leagues, or basketball or soccer. And for most people, they're not even in one sport, they're in multiple sports all year long. So they're busy. This is crazy. This is crazy, everyone. Man, let me tell you, this is, I think it's ridiculous. And I'm looking in the mirror, and looking into my own life, and just writing examples of like, wow, we have too much stuff, and we have a surplus of activity within our lives that just drags us down. And here's the kicker: it gets in the way of our priorities. And so we're wasting all our time on just some ridiculous stuff. Not that these things are bad in and of themselves. Uh, we can do a few of these, but when we start to do all these things and have all these things, we find ourselves in that downward spiral. Let me bring you a verse that I think will speak to this, or in better words, the verse speaks to us and it reveals these things. And that's really where it started. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15, it says, "Therefore, look carefully how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil." That look carefully how you walk is one of the things I've been trying to do recently. And that's how I came up with many of these ideas was, okay, how am I walking? And for me, it was just either Netflix, getting caught up on Netflix, or YouTube videos. I play guitar and some of these things, and I just realized I have too much things going on. And the only way for me not to be busy, or to actually allow my priorities to be adequately met within the day, and that priority, everyone, is to is to be the father that I need to be, is that I have to get rid of some of these things. I have to die to myself to some of these things. I am here to serve and to show my children who Jesus is, who God is. And I can't do that if all I'm doing is trying to self-heal myself with golf or whatever the case may be. I really have to consider the way that I am walking. That is the way we live. Look carefully how you live. How are you living, man? Let me ask you straight up. How are you living right now? How many items do you actually have? How many do you use? How often do you use it? What is that taking from your life financially, from your time? And what is it taking from the priority that you're supposed to have within leading your children? I know that's tough, man, because I'm looking in the mirror saying, man, I've got some work to do, and I do. And I just want to call y'all to say, look in the mirror, and I'm not pointing at you to tell you what you're doing is wrong. That's between you and God. But I'm saying, look in the mirror and really consider how you're living your life. Are you using your time wisely? Are you prioritizing your children over these extracurricular activities that we don't have to have? So we must, as the verse says, we must redeem the time. We redeem it by cutting out those things and by prioritizing our lives. We'll talk about prioritizing our lives as practical, or as dads, in a future episode. But we have to redeem the time. We have to make the time valuable by spending it on what God calls valuable. The golf clubs will rust and break and be thrown away. The same with bikes and all the other things. But our children, they're never 2 years old again. They're never 5 years old again. They're never 12 years old again. They're never 17 years old again. They're in our household for a little bit. And usually their mindset's made up by the age of 12 or so, and then they're out. Like they're done, individuals, independent, doing whatever they want. And so here's the practical dad tip today is look at the things you are spending your time on. And then do work with the Lord saying, Father, I believe that you truly are sufficient and most satisfying. I believe that. And that these things will not ultimately satisfy me. And I believe that you've given me children to raise properly, and they have to be at the top of my priorities. So show me, what do I need to cut out of my life? You may get to keep your golf clubs, or you may get to keep, you may even get to keep your boat, but we need to cut out some other stuff because we have too much things and too many activities going on. And if you say, well, everyone else is doing these things, cool. Well, that's true. They are. But for me and my household, we're going to seek to serve the Lord better. I am, by starting to do those sorts of things. And man, the more of us who start to do this thing, all of a sudden, the other men will look and say, hey, I need to cut some stuff out of my life too. And so let's start with ourselves. Let's start with just going to the Lord and saying, you know what? We've forgotten that you are most satisfying, because he is. Christ Jesus is the most satisfying thing within our lives if we would just focus upon him. We're too easily pleased by this junk in this world that rusts and rots and is gone tomorrow. So, men, I challenge you, redeem the time. Consider the way in which you are living your life and spending that time on. Until next time, take care. Hey everyone, thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode. Just want to remind you, if you have questions that you'd like to ask us, or maybe future episodes that you would like for us to explore, you can email us at practicaldadpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you just have an opinion or just something you want to share with us, we'd love to hear that news. Once again, it is practicaldadpodcast@gmail.com.